our good judiciary again. We are for fight with them, a legal fight. And there is information we have which we cannot share now for the reasons which I said earlier. Secondly, Chair, on the issue of the issue raised about the radicalization, you know, the distinguished Senator Tabitha Mutinda has asked me to explain to the committee why we cannot consider using Mr. Mackenzie to de-radicalize his followers. Mr. Mackenzie, the things he has done are not human. The worst thing we can do as authorities is to glorify a terrorist or a criminal. Do we have a problem of radicalization? Yes, we do. Beyond the experience you had, Senator Tabitha, I have told you we just lost one person we had rescued 2 days ago who refuses to eat because he believes he should fast to death. Many others have been resisting rescue. So there is a problem of radicalization. Therefore, one of the things we are putting in place is a mechanism of addressing the de-radicalization of Mackenzie followers, but we don't need help from Mackenzie. What we need from Mackenzie is God will keep him in good health so that he can face justice. We will not use him to assist us in anything. Number two, the distinguished senator also asked about the pulling down of social media preaching. It is true. It's something that we are engaging with the Communications Authority. The DCI is in active engagement to pull down not only the evil teachings of Mr. Mackenzie, but other content from other people which we believe are as harmful, if not more harmful. For your information, Chair, after this incident, we have been able to establish that there are many other preachers of that type. But because we are a country that respects religion, for a long time, government has not been interested really in interfering with religious activities. But what this event has provided us with is an opportunity to just scan around and see. And our preliminary findings is that we have so many Mackenzies, not just in Kilifi, but spread elsewhere. And again, we don't want to interfere with religious freedom. It's unconstitutional anyway. It's unconstitutional because the Constitution guarantees freedom of worship. But that freedom of worship must be exercised in accordance with the Constitution. We are meeting some resistance from certain quarters. And on behalf of the general public, because the majority of the public are victims of these fraudsters and conmen, no amount of resistance or opposition will stop this administration from fixing this problem. So, we have arrested others, a few others. Yes. Some have recorded statements. Some are helping us with investigations. And they are from different parts of the country. Some are not even as famous. This gave us an opportunity to even hear about horrible stories. People who are subjecting Kenyans to sexual abuse and molestation in the name of worshiping God. Even with the Shakahola incident, among the many leads that we are following is the sexual abuse of mainly children in some of those shanties that had been constructed in Shakahola. We have some leads. Those shanties were used for, may have been used, probably, for sex orgies involving children. Chair, lastly, the distinguished senator asked, why can't we involve locals? We are. If you have any information of people that can help us, let us know. Already we are working very well with the local community, quietly, because the information is sensitive. Some of them don't want to be known. They are helping us. In fact, and Senator Mazari, I think I saw him here, maybe he left. The community around Bofu has been very, very, very instrumental in some of the rescues we have achieved last 2 weeks. Because Mackenzie wanted to do his activities in Bofu, but he realized because it's a settled area, he would not achieve before he moved to Shakahola. So they had some very useful information. Number two, within the Chakama Ranch, we have herders who had been there before, but when the place became dry during the drought, they relocated as pastoralists do. Some of them have started coming back. Again, they are giving us huge help to the search and rescue and the grave identification teams. So we are cooperating with communities because we cannot just come with officers from, and imagine that the officers we have from different parts of the country can help us deal with a problem that occurred in a local area. We are working with communities. We are working with anybody who can give us information. And any person who has information that can help us establish the truth is welcome to share with us. Finally, the questions raised by the senator for Bungoma. Yes, Mr. Mackenzie has been on our radar since 2017. Yes, we took Mr. Mackenzie to court 4 times. But as I've explained, all the time he was released, and very leniently. What we did not know until March was that Mr. Mackenzie was killing people in Shakahola forest. That information was not available. As opposed to whether there is anything more than just presenting him in court that government could have done between 2017 and 2023 March, I want to admit, yes, there is much more government could have done in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2023. And that is why I said, on behalf of government, the previous administration and this one, I want to say there are things we could have done differently, and we are sorry. And the only solution is to make sure that where we have gotten hold of this problem, the action we take, the measures we take, become a testament that this country can only be better. And this kind of madness should not happen again. But also, Chairman, as I said, we should not also be very cruel on ourselves because we are all human. Even sophisticated countries have been hurt by bad people. I gave you an example of America in 2001. Japan with the Tokyo subway attack in 1995 on basis of religion, where people went with a toxic gas inside an underground train and killed many people. The United Kingdom, fairly sophisticated country, 2005, the London underground tube, 56 people. So we are not like the only country. Uganda here in 2000, 900 people who were burnt down in a mass suicide mission. America again, 1978, and there are many cases. The only difference, Chair, and this is for me the take home for us as a country, is when criminals succeed, because criminals need just one successful hit to succeed. We should not forget the many, many instances where we have thwarted threats to our country. That should never leave our mind. But at the same time, we should be harsh on ourselves that even this one hit is so painful. And what we should do, therefore, and that is the difference between different countries, is what we do after we have been hurt. We have been hurt. It should not have happened. It happened. So it should not happen again. How do we do that? We must change the law, the institutions, the responsibilities, the accountability. So this for me is a turning point. And once more, Chair, just to answer the distinguished Senator Bungoma, we did something, although we were let down by another arm of government which we have no control over, but we could have done better. And for the part that we could have done better, between 2017 and 2023, we say we are sorry and it should not happen again. Now, finally, again, the issue the distinguished senator has raised about the ACC, there is investigations going around there, and we have more people that are being investigated around having prior knowledge of that Mackenzie thug settling in Shakahola, but again, to preserve the dignity and integrity of the investigating teams and preservation of evidence, I will not say more than just to accept that, yes, there could have been an officer here, an officer there, who perhaps either had prior knowledge or ought to have known. And it's part of what we are preparing for action. The county, that includes also our county teams, intelligence team, investigations teams, county police, and so forth and so on. I hope you were not asking about, I hope, Chairman, I hope the Senator was not asking about the county government, because I cannot speak for the county government. I cannot speak for the county government. If the Senate would like to speak to the county government, unless they speak to them directly, I can only speak about the national government. However, should criminal culpability point at any person who is in the county government, we will take them to court and prosecute them like other criminals. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Waziri. I'd like to give to Senator Amida and Senator Mohamed Faki, but there's a request here by Senator Cheptumo because of some engagement downstairs, Senate engagement. If could just take a quick question and then we go to the normal rule.
Thank you, Chair. Let me first of all thank the CS for the very comprehensive response to this committee. And it's not only that it's dealing with Shakahola. You deal with so many issues, matters securing our country, the cattle rustling, and many others. So we really want to appreciate you, Waziri, for your presence and quick response to some of the issues facing us in Baringo and other areas. I have two questions. And one is that when we went to Shakahola, it is clear most of the victims actually come from outside Kilifi, Bungoma, Nyanza, Kitui, and so on. Meaning that perhaps Mackenzie had some networks across the country, even from Kisii and so on. So far, Waziri, can you confirm to this committee if already your investigations have led you to this network of Mackenzie? Because there should be an explanation why the locals actually are not victims of this situation, but people from other counties. It's a very, very important issue. We feel you need to address this committee on that particular issue. Of course, as a committee, we intend perhaps to visit some of the areas, depending on the answers you're going to give us, or depending on what we're going to find as committee. Number two, I agree with you, you had to transfer the county security officers, because when we went to Shakahola, and Kilifi in particular, the headquarters now, they were new. In fact, I think the man in charge of intelligence was only 3 days, almost a week old. And I could see some desperation in their faces, that they are very limited in terms of what was going on. And yet, they were supposed to help us now in this process. And of course, because they are trained people, they will have to do their work. There should be some value, Waziri, from the knowledge of the previous security officers, the man in charge of intelligence, police, and the rest. Even the county commission is also new. Actually, everybody is new. And we as a committee think that perhaps at some point, we must have to extract information from these people to help in shedding light on some of the issues. Of course, with your statement that government will take action on them, I don't know how you can advise this committee. What is your take on the value of information the former security officers have in terms of shedding light to the happenings in Shakahola for that time? I think at some point we intend to call them to appear before this committee just to tell us. Just want to pick your mind on that. And finally, Shakahola is a very fast forest. We went for about 5 kilometers to where the graves were and to Mackenzie's house. I also saw you went there. And then you have about 100 and something people going round this forest daily or something. Now, I heard you yesterday speak about Savo East National Park being another new area where people are likely to be buried, save that now the elephants are helping people to push them back. But I'm happy, Waziri, that there is this technology you have applied, as you said, which has enabled you now to see images of 10 graves within that forest. My question is, these 10 graves, which has been enabled you to come across them through the technology that has helped you, have you been able to extend your using these drones or something, I don't know what you call technology, being able to go beyond this Shakahola area and maybe go to the Tsavo East National Park and now you talk of again some other areas, new discoveries, Kulano, some other places. Because, as you rightly said, maybe what we have seen is just a small portion of the situation. And at some point, they were supposed to be supported by Red Cross in doing this air support and so on. So just to update this committee, if you have been able to go beyond the area that you have declared as a disaster area, and do you intend also to extend to those areas now, which you are beginning to discover that the bodies would be? Thank you. Those are the ones I have.
So maybe you can take those.
Thank you, Chair. Let me start with the last one. The 10 graves that I said, and they are mass graves, they are not graves, they are mass graves, were not identified through the technology I was talking about. They were identified by our experts physically, because you see, some of this technology is limited. And I'll try not to, because this is an open session. Let me say the following, Chair. For example, we are using sniffer dogs. They are good for locating whether people are buried in an area. That's one. We are also using just physical observation. And the reason we will still need physical observation is because this Mackenzie terrorist was very deliberate in what he was doing. I give 2 examples. The evidence that we are getting is that he avoided using phones and digital, where their communication can leave digital footprints. So the money was conning people, except small figures like 50 shillings sent by a member, which accumulates to about 100,000, then he withdraws. Much of the money was conning people using hard cash, which makes it a bit difficult to trace. Let me mention that. Number 2 is that some of the graves we have stumbled on, including the fresh ones, required a physical search because technology would not have helped, because he had already covered the graves with vegetation. So you see some crops, but actually underneath is a mass grave. And there's something I said earlier. What our officers are doing there, they are using an international standards of searching, investigating, and processing mass graves. The team leader works with the handbook throughout. So, and some of that work requires physical search, which will take a long time. That's why I said we must be prepared. And that's what happens for this kind of crimes. It takes a lot of time, months, years, to piece together some of the most sophisticated aspects of the crime. I agree with you to balance that so that Kenyans can see action is being taken. We can start by dealing with the lesser issues, So that physical bit must always remain, because this criminal was deliberate and was hiding. He had ways of hiding evidence. Some of the structures we suspect could be holding people underneath some of those temporary structures there. Could be graves themselves. So we're also using metal detectors. If anybody was buried with anything metallic, it's very easy to pick. Let me put it this way. We have drones. And we are using drones and night vision equipment to be able to track any human activity. We are limiting the use of aircraft because the place is forested and there is a lot of cover. So the only thing that can help you is an unmanned aerial vehicle. That is a drone, which can detect any human activity, but it cannot necessarily detect a grave. But the satellite technology that we are using is giving us images that can help us identify graves. So it's a combination of things. I would like to answer by saying this. This country does not lack many things. I think what we need to do, and perhaps I don't know whether this is the right forum, but let me say this, Chairman. What we need is to utilize the resources that we have as a country and spread them evenly within our national security apparatus so that every organ, every agency that is involved in security can make use of this equipment to detect, deter, prevent, and respond to crime. So we have enough equipment. It's all Cajun. And I say so with deep respect that all the assets we have in this country, be they assets of the military of Kenya, assets of the National Intelligence Service, assets of the National Police Service, assets of the Kenya Prison Service, assets of any other agency that deals with security. This equipment have been bought using the taxes of the people of Kenya and must be therefore deployed to respond with this. So we have what we require to do this. The only caveat is a time factor because some of it requires physical intervention. You cannot deal with technology in some of the discoveries because, number one, the international standards require the physical bit, but also it's difficult to detect using technology, can only be done by an expert. We are hastening that process by opening very many security roads. As I said, every 50 or 100 acres will be surrounded by security roads so that it's handled as a compartment. They move to the next one, they move to the next one. It's going to take time. Meanwhile, we can be prosecuting people with these other things. Now, the other question, Chair, raised by Senator Cheptumo, is on the network. The network that no, it's about the transfer of officers. Whether their evidence is material, and the answer is yes. So every officer who had a role must record a statement and must assist in the investigation. The more reason, Chair, why I said we could not have conducted investigations with all the officers there. They had to be working elsewhere so that they assist us from outside, because we cannot use the same people to investigate matters that happen within the jurisdiction. So they will have to record statements, and that includes all agencies, and we'll make use of their information. As I said, we don't want to generalize. We don't believe that every officer is culpable, but we believe that some officer, in one way or the other, either knew or ought to have known, using the reasonable man's test, ought to have known something of this nature is happening and should have acted to prevent at least the extent of the damage. The last one.
Chair, maybe before the CS leaves that point, the other part of my question, Chair, was whether, I just want to pick your mind, because if this committee was to make a decision and say, look, we want all of them to appear before us, that was my second part of that question.
Chair, I can't answer that question because, we cannot dictate to Parliament. Yes, I have read Article 125 of the Constitution.
You have answered. You're quite
right. Just a caveat, that's a rider. Just a rider, which is, but on the same vein, because we are all institutions of state working towards a common purpose, there are things which the committee of Parliament could have mandate on, but perhaps handle it differently so that the big picture is not lost. And I've given the example with the judiciary. The judiciary is independent. They are free to give whoever they want to give bail. It's their rights. But you see, they are also part of our society. They must ask yourself even the question whether if I release this person, it'll be safe, even his own safety in the community. So, because these are people, these officers are our officers, we believe they have crucial information that can help us. Whether that information should be processed in the manner in which Parliament processes at this stage is something that I leave to the wisdom of this committee, and I don't think there is lack of wisdom.
Quite, Waziri, you know that the rules also allow us to hold meetings in camera where it's necessary, so we will weigh and see what will work. So I think in closing, we would... there was one last question.
One last one. When he asked about the network, I think this crook was very deliberate, as I said. And so at some point when he had a fallout with the local community, both in Malindi and in Bofu area, which is next to Shakahola, he decided he's going to work with and recruit people who are not from there. Our own assessment, our own hypothesis is that he must have known that if you work with locals or recruit locals, it will be your file will be exposed in a very short time, because they will start asking, we can't see so and so's family is missing. So he would pick, from different parts, and the locals, except a few who had contact with him and who could trace where he went, he really strayed away. So most of the people, even who are in our custody, is second tier and third tier bearers of responsibility are actually not locals. The majority of them are not locals. Some of them, we arrested them 2 days ago here in Nairobi. Others were arrested elsewhere. And there are others we are tracking actively, even as we speak. And one was arrested when she was about to leave the country. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Waziri. So we'll have Senator Hamida and then senior in the profession, Senator Faki.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try to be fast. Waziri, I commend you. In fact, one will just be a comment and have one or two questions. I commend you for the powerful sentiments, apologizing to Kenyans and on behalf of the government. and the president. I'm only hoping that it's not going to be prejudicial or defeat justice. That's just a comment. But my question is, Bonazir, you took Mr. Mackenzie, Pastor Mackenzie was taken to court more than 4 times. But then I'm just wondering the lapses of intelligence also. Because after, that was after being taken to court, as much as, he was released. In the mosque, the old intelligence are there. Example of Abu Drogo, what happened to him, 1 year, 2 years. And, you find intelligence, they even convert to be Muslims, just to monitor for a whole year. That's what happened to Abu Drogo. And that's what I'm saying, if it was a Muslim, you find all the intelligence are all in the mosques and doing all manner of things just to monitor the accountability and, to check on this person. So I'm just wondering, after his release, where was the intelligence, as much as, there was some lapse? Just number 2, the death of his 2 wives. I'm hoping that they're also being investigated. Then number 3, has the state looked at his hefty accounts? So because we realized that he transferred, there were transfers to his wives and his wife and his mother. Some transfer of accounts. As much as they claim that he only has 370. The last but not the least, the dangers of foreign preachers. It's actually mushrooming. The preachers from West Africa are all over. So I'm hoping that there will be accountability and also the monitoring of these preachers. I don't want to take much of your time. Asante Waziri.
Senator Khatib.
Thank you, Bwana CS. I just want to take up from where my sister, Senator Hamid, had started on the issue of radicalization. And what we have seen is that Pastor Mackenzie is being treated with kids' gloves, actually, because if you look at what happened to Sheikh Abu Drogo and Sheikh Abu Makaburi, they were in and out of prison from the time they were taken in until their cases were concluded. Yeah? And then after that, Sheikh Abu Drogo was gunned down at Bamburi on his way to Mombasa town in the presence of his wife. On a day like this, on a Friday like this, at about 11 a.m. in the morning. Sheikh Makaburi was killed outside the Shanzulo courts. He had gone to attend a mention, after which, when he was out waiting for a matatu to come back to town, they killed him there in cold blood. These were arrested on the basis of radicalization, and they were locked in because they had several cases. So they were locked in, and then when they came out, they were killed. Number 2, is it possible that prior to this Shakahola tragedy, this same forest was being used as extrajudicial killing grounds by the security forces, so that even if a report is made that somebody has died in the forest, nobody in the security circles was willing to go and investigate. And this is also borne out from your response when you say that two children were found in Chakaba location, 2 minors, Seth Hinzano and Eva Brito Ngala, on 20th of March. Yeah? And it took some time before your people went to the ground to go and investigate what was happening. Number 3, community policing. There appears to be a gap between the national government and the county government in terms of security. If you look at the structure of our security committees, no elected leader or no member of the local elected leaders sit on these committees. Yet, security, although it's a national function, it transcends to the counties. Members of the public are asking the Kilifi political leadership, where were you when this Shakahola massacre was taking place? Yet they have no answers. They rely on people who are mainly maybe answerable to Nairobi rather than answerable to the local political leadership. So what I'm asking on this is that whether your ministry has thought of maybe operationalization of the community policing regulations so that there's a nexus between the county government and the national government in terms of security matters. Finally, I'm a life member of the Kenya Red Cross. We have volunteered a lot of resources to the national government in Malindi. And we are wondering now, last week when I was there, they were saying that our resources have been depleted. Whatever budget Malindi had has been depleted. Whether now that whatever is being undertaken by the national government is also being supplemented by the resources, the small resources that the Red Cross has in Malindi, whether they can be also supplemented. And finally, we see also the postmortems are being undertaken, and whether the ministry can tap into the resources that are there from the Independent Medical Legal Unit. It's also an NGO that has done a lot of work in terms of dealing with violence and crimes of this nature, whether they can be called upon to supplement whatever the police pathologists are doing, because it's a long process and people are waiting, and we know that there's also a toll on these officers, the trauma of seeing these bodies every day. Although we can say it's their work, but they are human beings. We should be conscious of the fact that they're also being exposed to this trauma that they might deal with for a long time. So whether you can tap into the resources available maybe from the Kenya Independent Legal Unit. It's an NGO, I think, you know, you can get their addresses and be able to assist in this process. Finally, I emphasize the issue of the police station. It's very far from the nearest police station. And we shall, as you have said earlier, that you are going to do roads, but still we'll need a police presence for a long time in future for this area. Thank you, Bwana CS and Chairman.
Thank you. CS, I think that we will be coming towards a conclusion. So maybe you can give us everything else that you have apart from apart from what they have raised. Thank you, Waziri.
Thank you, Chair. Chair and honorable members. The question asked about intelligence lapses, possible intelligence lapses after 2017, when Mr. Mac with the security authorities on matters as serious as radicalization. I would like to respond as follows, that in our response to institutional reform, we are not leaving out any organ of national security, including the National Intelligence Service. And the general admission I made before you, Chair, and this committee, that we should have done things better and differently, includes the NIS. The commitment I made also, Chair and honorable members, that there will be accountability in all institutions and at all levels, not just dealing with junior officers. That commitment includes the NIS accountability. So I'll leave it at that for now. Number two, it is true, as the distinguished senator said, that Mr. Mackenzie in the last few years has lost 2 wives. And part of our investigations includes how his wives died, whether it was natural causes or other causes. Thirdly, the distinguished senator asked about the accounts. Mr. Mackenzie does not appear to have been banking his money from the evidence we have. If he did, he must have been banking through other people. His accounts are empty. Mr. Mackenzie does not appear to have received huge forms of money through the digital platforms like M-Pesa. He did receive, but not the kind of amounts that you would expect about someone perpetrating this huge syndicate of murdering people and transporting them and conning them their money. They sell their property and surrender the money. So the M-Pesa transactions are, 100 shillings from a radicalized follower, 200 shillings, 50 shillings. When it accumulates to 50,000, he withdraws. And therefore, but we have not ruled out that he could have been banking money or receiving money through other means. Number 4, Chair, the distinguished senator raised the issue of preachers, other preachers, some even from outside the country. All preachers of all religions who are in this industry must going forward preach within the Constitution of Kenya and within the law of Kenya. Every preacher, priest, bishop, rabbi, and any person who addresses a church, a mosque, a temple, a synagogue, or any house of worship must address within the Constitution of Kenya and the laws of Kenya as supplemented by international law. And therefore, yes, distinguished senator, we are on this matter, and I promised, unlike in the past when as a country we have looked at a problem just to resolve it then and fall back, this time round, the government of Kenya will not release the foot from the pedal. We'll make sure the measures we put in place outlive this administration so that we can be sure that for the generations of Kenyans to come, houses of worship, temples, mosques, synagogues, churches will be places of safety and solace for people who have problems in life, but not places for molestation, sexual exploitation, financial exploitation, and even death and cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment. Next is the issues that were raised by the senator for Mombasa, my senior in the legal profession, Senator Faki, with regard to the government treating Mr. Mackenzie with kid gloves. Far from it, Senator. Mr. Mackenzie should not be treated as a human being, as I said. Deserved to face justice and to help us in deterring this from happening. To the Mackenzies, other Mackenzies out there, their time is up. because through what has happened, we're going to change the way we treat even people who purport or masquerade to be men and women of God, because we have seen what a generalized and laid-back approach in terms of security can do to a country. So, for this one Mackenzie, justice will take its course. For the other Mackenzies out there, the time for conning people, robbing people, manipulating people, radicalizing them, misusing people, exploiting them, that time is up. And we will not yield to any moral or religious threat, because there are some people who have pretended that they know God more than any other person. And the rest of us have no capacity to know God. We will not buy into that nonsense again, because it is the nonsense that has brought this kind of damage. We will not interfere with religion. We will not interfere with the freedom of worship, but we will smoke out all criminals from houses of worship, ruthlessly, decisively, and permanently. All conmen, thieves, molesters, fraudsters, this is the end. And you better get that. And we will not listen to nobody, because it is this laid-back approach that has caused the whole country to focus on this ugly scar on our country's history. Next, with your permission, Chair, a question has been asked about the slow response between when the first two children died and when we moved in. We could not immediately estimate the magnitude of this problem when the report was made on these two children. Ordinarily, we thought it's an ordinary crime. And I think what followed subsequently in the days and couple of weeks is what prepared us for what we have there. And as soon as we grasped the magnitude of this problem, we moved faster than lightning, because, of course, we had been late, but immediately we were seized of the gravity of this matter. We deployed every resource available in government to make sure that we arrest further damage. And I am glad today we are here, having rescued 91 people who would have died, and I am hopeful we'll rescue a few more. And that environment was provided by the leadership of the President, who asked us to make sure that we arrest the situation from where it had reached. The next one, the same distinguished senator from Mombasa asked about whether Shakahola would have been used for extrajudicial killings. We do not have any evidence pointing in that direction, but as I've said, we are not ruling out anything. Our ears and eyes are open, our minds are open to any possibility. And therefore, Senator Faki, that is something we should be looking at. And I know, you're asking that in good faith based on your professional background and the instincts of a legal professional. And I want to agree with you to some extent, because we have recovered skeletons. Remember I said majority of the people who were killed died recently, within 3 weeks after the last release of Mr. Mackenzie towards the end of March. So within April. But some of the skeletons we have stumbled upon could be slightly older. Two legal theories: either these are people who were killed by the same Mackenzie or other criminals, or even dumped there by whoever. And our investigation inquiry will be open, including investigating whether any security agencies could have carried out extrajudicial killings, because it's been a problem in our country and we can't hide the truth. The same Senator Faki asked about the issue of community policing regulations. Yes, we will operationalize them. And over and above that, nothing prevents any county from setting up the county policing authorities, which brings on board political leaders and representatives of security agencies. Next is the Red Cross. I want to thank the Kenya Red Cross for tremendous and sacrificial support they have given us in this operation. We really appreciate. Should there be a request for support to continue partnering with us in that operation, I'll be more than happy to receive that request and process it. And finally, Senator Faki asked about the involvement of the Independent Medical Legal Unit. Again, I am willing to receive a proposal and channel it to our agencies and see how we can partner, because this is a problem affecting our country. It's not a government problem, it's our country's problem. It's only that legally and constitutionally, the government's security agency must take the lead. Otherwise, we welcome the partnership and the support and the cooperation of even non-government organizations. Some of them, like Muhuri, like Haki Africa, they have come to there, they've done a great job. And just between the time when this matter exploded and the time we got on the ground, those human rights organizations did a good job in trying to help Kenyans come to terms with what has happened. They continue to be there. We are working very closely with them, including the media, to make sure that this becomes our collective problem. And then, likewise, it becomes our patriotic duty, all of us, to make remedies. And therefore, the contribution of everyone is required. Finally, the police station, we will, of course, add the police station in that area. We'll upgrade Langobaya, and already we have split the location into two and installed a new chief, because we realized also that location is very large. So that matter has already been addressed. There's an extra chief now, and the location has been split. We're just waiting for some resources to be able to do an upgrade on Langobaya, and also to provide mobility and other changes which we'll be announcing shortly. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So I'd like to end it there, although, is it very burning, Senator?
With regard to other forests elsewhere, maybe the government also should come in and see whether such activities could be happening in other places. Because for this one, it's a unique situation which has been found out. But maybe there are some other places where similar activities could be taking place, and which the government may not be in a position to know until it is too late. Thank you.
Okay. Waziri, with your team, we want to really thank you for creating time and answering promptly to our communication. Also for making available facilitation when we need it for purposes of carrying out this national duty. We thank you for the way you have cooperated with us. We thank you for the very elaborate statements you have made it here. And we are grateful for the fact that you have come out clearly to acknowledge there were gaps and that you're going to address them. So with those few remarks, we say thank you again, and we wish you all the best as you do your bit and as we do our bit. Thank you.
Treated it with suspicion. We also treated with suspicion the fact that these people were not interdicted or fired, but they were being taken from one station to another police station, to another area or county, and we were thinking that this administration is continuing with what was happening in previous administrations, where a problem is transferred from one area to another without actual action being taken. We are grateful that the minister today has said action will be taken against any person who will have been found to have been wanting, either for failure to act or for acting against what was the rule of the game at the time. But on the whole, we are satisfied with the angle that is being taken, that we are not only investigating now local crimes, but even the international angle is being investigated. I want to tell you, Kenyans, this Senate committee will probe every corner, every person who has information. And we want to encourage our people, other Kenyans who have information, that you can write to the Senate. You don't have to wait for us to move to your area. You can write to the Senate and we shall respond. This is not like a judicial inquiry commission, commission of judicial inquiry. This is not like preparing for a criminal case. We will take all information. And we are determined. Today, we have said as a committee that we will visit various places of interest that this Mr. Mackenzie was using as either branches or areas of recruitment. We want to go and hear what our people are saying and get all the information we want. Why? Because we want to make solid recommendations. And we are glad the minister is with us on that one, that they will deal with this matter. We are going to the bottom of it, and we want to create recommendations and a law that will help. No more people should die because of religious teachings. Let us enjoy our religion, but in safety. So this is where we are going, and we are grateful for what we have received, and this committee soldiers on to all other parts that are necessary or are of interest for us. We met many people when we were in Kilifi. We were able to meet with NGOs. We met with forensic people. We met with security agencies there, and we met with religious organizations, Christian, Muslims. We are expanding our net so that we can tap in all, including African religious organization, because even then, when we make our recommendations, everybody will be captured. This is not just about Christians. We want to hear from everyone, because this is an opportunity for Kenya to walk a different light from now on, so that we are safe even in practicing our different religious and our faiths in different formats. I thank you, and I think we agreed there are no questions, or sindio hivyo? Thank you very much.
Okay.
Give me like 5 minutes.